සාධකාරයක් පවත්වමු. මොහොතේ ඇයි සාධු කියන්නේ? සාධු සාධු සාධු. අද අපේ විහාරස්ථානයේ පවත්වනු ලබන වස්සාන කාලයේ පවත්වනු ලබන තුන්වෙනි ධර්ම දේශනාව පවත්වන්නට සූදානම් වෙන්නේ මාර මුලින් සඳහන් කළ ආකාරයට ඒ පින්කමේ කටයුතු බාරගෙන දායකත්වයේ වෙන කටයුතු කරන්නේ උදේ මහත්මයා සහ දීපිකා නවතන්න කියන දෙපළ. ඉතින් අද ධර්ම දේශනාව සඳහා වැඩම කොට වැඩ සිටින්නේ අපේ විහාරස්ථානයේ ඕකාලයක් වැඩ සිටිය අපේ සිංගප්පූරුවේ අවසරයි ආචාර්ය සුමන සිරි පණ්ඩිත හාමුදුරුවන් වහන්සේ. උන්වහන්සේ අමුතුවෙන් හඳුන්වා දෙන්න ඕන නෑ. මම කියන්නේ හැමදාම ඇවිදින පුස්තකාලයක් වගේ. දැනුමකින් සම්බන්ධ වෙච්ච පැත්තකින් ඕන පැත්තකින් කියන්න පුළුවන් කියාව තියෙන පණ්ඩිත හාමුදුරුවන් වහන්සේ නම. මම උන්වහන්සේ ඇසුරු කරන්නට ලැබීම, කතා බහ කරන්නට ලැබීම, ටික කාලයකට උන්වහන්සේ එක්ක වාසය කරන්නට ලැබීම මහත් වූ භාග්‍යයක්. උන්වහන්සේ මම පාද නමස්කාර කොට වන්දනා කොට මහත් ගෞරවයෙන් පිළිගන්න වැයත් නැවත පිළිගැනීමක් වශයෙන් දෙවරක් සාධකාර පවත්වනවා. කරුණාවෙන් ආරාධනා කරනවා පණ්ඩිත හාමුදුරුවන් වහන්සේ අපගේ විඥානකම්පාවෙන් මේ ධර්ම දේශනා කටයුත්ත සිදු කරන හැටියට හැමදිනම දේශවන
Samanta Chakravalesu Atra Gacchantu Devata Saddhammang Munirajassa Sanantu Sagga Mukhadang Dhammas Savanakalu Ayang Padanta Dhammas Savanakalu Ayang Badanta Dhammas Savanakalu Ayang Badanta Namo Tassa Bhagavatu Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavatu Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavatu Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Sisters and brothers, අද මම මාතෘකාවට තබල පිච්ච මාතෘකාව නෙමෙයි කතා කරන්නේ. ඒකට හේතුවක් තියෙනවා. මම හිතන්නේ මේ අද ධර්ම දේශනාවේ මාතෘකාව ගැන කාටවත් ඊමේල් එකක් හම් වෙලා නැහැ නේද? ඒ නිසා මාතෘකාව කතා කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒ කතා කරන්න ඕනේ හුඟක් පිළිසින්න වෙලාවක නැත්නම් මේ මාතෘකාව ආයෙ කතා කරන්න වෙන්නේ නැහැ. එතකොට බොහෝ ජනයාට ප්‍රයෝජනවත් වෙන මාතෘකාවක් තීරණය කරගෙන තිබුණා. කොහොමයි ඊමේල්ස් දෙන්නේ. ඒ නිසා පිළිස්ත ගැලපෙන විදිහට මම වෙන මාතෘකාවක් කතා කරනවා. So today my topic is, which I have changed in fact, Buddha, the father of women's liberation. Many religions look down on women because they are all founded by men. It's a very sad thing, male chauvinism. It is as bad as what you call feminism, where women think they are equal to men. Whether the question of equality comes in is another debate, but the fact that women play a prominent role in religion And that everybody need to, if we are not the same, at least we are similar. I say so because at the time of the Buddha, the conditions were so bad that according to the Manusmriti, that is the law book of the Hindus, they define women like this. This is the background where you can understand how the Buddha becomes the father of women's liberation. In stylish English, you say women's lib in short form. That's popular way. The Buddha's compassion, we understand, is Mahakaruna. He is the great compassionate Mahakaruna. Now, in that law book before him, in which he was also brought up in that kind of a culture in India, though technically he is not an Indian, he is a Nepalese. He was born in Nepal, Kapilavastu is in Nepal. The book says there are two beings, animals and men. Women don't fall to the category of the human condition, but they are semi-human. That means they are intermediate state of animal and a man. You see, this is how it's been described. And you know, some of you have heard that according to Hindu culture, if the husband dies, then the women in India at the time had to perform the Sati Puja. Sati Puja means not the Sati in Buddhism. You have to jump to the fire, burn yourself alive. What a tragedy! To become a woman, to become a mother, to become a human being, in fact. So that was the nature of India. In such a backdrop, the Buddha stood very strong, put his foot down, and fought for the sake of women. Now, the plus points in the Buddha is that first he did that revolution, and then the second thing, he allowed the Bhikkhuni order. That means the nuns order. We have a Bhikkhuni Sasana, like we have the Bhikkhu Sasana. Buddhism can be completed only when we have all the four groups. We must not be prejudiced by certain theories and to deny women to become nuns, not to allow women to become bhikkhunis. This is very bad. This is not only because they are women, but they are also human beings. So, the Buddha's way of how he looked at it, by his action, by his preaching, by making a law book for the Bhikkhuni, it's called the Bhikkhuni Vinaya, the laws for a Bhikkhuni. And also the laws for the Bhikkhuni also get a little more than the Bhikkhus Vinaya. A Bhikkhu has 220. Sometimes people mistakenly, they say 227, including monks, make that mistake. Because 7 is, the 7 number comes, which is the procedure of the law system. The procedures of a law doesn't become a rule, it's a procedure. So this is the tragedy in the human thinking, whether man or woman. Then the bhikkhus themselves don't understand that their rules are 220. So when that is the case, how can we understand the rights of women to become nuns and to become equal in terms of equality? Again, the Buddha within that backdrop, he understood and he gave his own foster mother. As his mother died later after his birth, we see foster mother, but actually Nepalese culture. I was there in December and January for the 17th time in 40 years. They practice polygamy. Polygamy means you can marry more than one wife. So actually Prince Siddhartha didn't have only a Sodara. He had 3 wives. This is not a new theory. If you read the Asokavadana Sanskrit books, the Tibetan Buddhist the life of the Buddha. Or if you read KDP Vikramasinghe's Sambuddha Sirita, you will find those three palaces were made because of the three wives. Even today, Mr. Dovarika Das, one of the veteran Buddhists in Nepal, who is a Sakya, known to us, he had three wives. So that's a custom of that area. Even in India, bordering those areas, there are certain states that practice polygamy or bharya seva. It's like in America, though by law, one man can marry only one woman. The Mormons, they marry 2 or 3 or 4. And the law doesn't prohibit them also, because it's a culture, it's a practice. So, we must not misunderstand that Prince Siddhartha was enlightened. He was not. The Buddha was enlightened. He led the life as a lay person. And he enjoyed his life. And then he was frustrated. If he had not enjoyed his life, he wouldn't get that frustration. So, very interestingly, seeing the struggle of man and woman as Prince Siddhartha, he came to the conclusion that we must give, if not the same status, but as far as enlightenment is concerned, a great sense of equality. His foster mother, Prajapati Gautami, came and asked him, I want to become a nun, please ordain me. The Buddha rejected 3 times. Not because he was not kind. He said, if I simply ordain you, people will think because I am your son, I can. Number 2, all the Brahmins would get angry with the Buddha. And the Hindus at that time, there was no Hinduism, it was Brahmanism. They will revolt against him. So there is a theory in Indian oral history, you don't find in the record books as such, that the Buddha was given poison, he died out of the poison, not the meat that he ate, not the sukar madhava that he ate. So these are very deep theories you have to find into. And also look at the social implications of that time. You can't judge the Buddha's condition from a modern perspective. You have to go to Indian history. And that is why you can understand how the Buddha becomes the father of women's liberation. It's a very interesting theme actually. At that time in India, women were meant to be just like how the Muslims think about women today. So inhuman, isn't it? Women are not supposed to go to school in Afghanistan. If they see them going to school, they throw acid to them. You know the story of Malala, the girl, world famous now. We need to live in this world and to understand the value of how the Buddha has given women that kind of freedom and semi-equal status. Biologically, though we think we are very different, actually, from a medical point of view, man and woman is not much different. Now, coming back to the psychology of the man or woman, we see a lot of differences. But in traditional society, women were taken to be childbearers. But the Buddha said, Itti bandhana muttama. Istriya tamaya uttumma bhande. That's the Pali word. Itti bandhana muttama. Then he said, whether you are male or female, you go to Nibbana by the same chariot. Ekama vahanen tamai nirvana kyanne pirimi unat. So, the Buddha created the first kind of nuns order in human history. Unbelievable. No other religion did like that. Isn't that a great feat as a historical person to demonstrate his compassion and his logical and consistent teaching to the people? To see that the Buddha was a great fighter for women's liberation. So if you go to some Buddhist countries like Burma, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Indonesia, and Tibet, women are more powerful than men. In the Indochina area, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, men are lazy. Women are dominant, you'll be surprised. We are more, influenced by Brahmanic thoughts in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh, and other parts of South Asia. But that a part of Indochina, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and Burma, and of course Singapore, women are equal. They are not subservient because we belong to Chinese culture in Singapore, Malaysia. And China believes that man and woman is the same. And in China, as much as the men, so are the women. They are very powerful. I'll be going to China next month. I've been invited by the president of China to come and speak on a very interesting theme. It's actually a religious theme, but they are so prejudiced. They told me, we are inviting you from a cultural point of view. What they meant was, don't talk about religion. But I'm supposed to talk about how Buddhism was taken to China by the monk called Fashion. So like that, human beings live in contradictory positions. They live in not what they say and not what they profess, what they are convinced by their communist system. So the Chinese have written in their constitution, religion is superstition. So they don't believe in religion. They don't believe in theory, they don't believe in practice. They invite me as a speaker, so they just want me to talk on a religious theme without talking about religion. Is it possible? Can you talk about a mother without talking about woman? It's like that. So these are called paraspara virodhi. On the single vajana, visangvadi. Sangvadi. There's no room for dialogue. So, these are the prejudices people have, which they have created. They live in that, and they find it difficult to come out from them. And if they come out from them, their whole structure system collapses. So was the system for the Brahmins. Today we call them Hindus. And the sole function of women in Brahminic society was motherhood, nothing else. No working, nothing, no. But we also have to understand, after Industrial Revolution, what has happened when women start to work. Children lost the touch of the mother. They see the mother like they see the father. Industrial Revolution after the 19th century has created such a situation. So sometimes parents don't see children, no? They go to shift work, they see the child is sleeping. Then they go to work, they come back, the child has gone to tuition or play games and come back late in the night. One word only they will answer to the mother. Yesterday I spoke to a larger gathering than this in the house, to young kids. They wanted me to speak to them about wise parenting. I'm not going to mix up both topics. There I stress how the touch of a mother physically is so important for the upbringing of a child, for the upbringing of a boy or a girl. You may say words, you may argue, but the touch of a mother, according to psychology, is so important. The sensation, it's not just the talk, it's not just the words. So this is the kind of understanding that the Buddha had. But I must tell you that the Buddha always put the mother and father as a unit. Mata Pitu, Brahmati Mata Pitaro, or other places. The Buddha was not of the opinion that the mother is more important than the father. The Buddha was not of the opinion that the father is more important than the mother either. He was so fair that he put that as one, as just one unit. Whenever he mentions the father, he was mentioning the mother. Whenever he mentions the mother, he was mentioning the father. A simple logical position of that is, there can be no mother without a father. Simple as that. So, coming back to our topic, if you look at India at that time, a woman had to be totally subservient to the husband, to the man, produce children. And a daughter, being born as a baby girl, was considered a liability. It is like in China and India today, in modern society. Many of the abortions are done because the child is a female. Infanticide. In China, it's terrible. How they do it, I just can't explain to you from a medical point of view the reports we get and we read and we see. In such situation, the Buddha broke the ice and when he met Mallika Devi, the queen of King Kosala, he said, because the daughter was born and then the king was very sad. And then he went to the Buddha and said, I've got a daughter to become my heir, after me to run the country. Then the Buddha said, O king, don't be disturbed. A female child may prove even a better offspring, a better child, than a male. This is the Buddha's advice to that great king. King Kosala was a very powerful king of that time. Then he says, the Buddha, for she may grow up wise and virtuous. Her husband's mother she becomes. Reverencing, that means getting respect, and a faithful wife. That child could be. And exactly that child, that female girl who was born, baby, she became a very powerful woman. So this is the Buddha's insight into such problems of India. And he said, Bharyava Parama Sakha. A husband should treat the wife as the best friend. Now we know in Sigalovada Sutta, most of you have read, that the wife should treat the husband's friends with due respect. Now sometimes the wife doesn't like the husband's friends, isn't it? Some of the friends. Now how are you going to do that? So this is the Buddha's way of how he tried to compromise and make the wife as a supreme comrade, a friend. Then the mother in the house, the Buddha says, Mata Mittam Sakhe Gati. The mother is the best friend, mothers knows best at home. For children can confide in the mother their problems. When you don't want to talk much to your mother, you have to talk only to your friends for hours and hours. And when the mother asks something, you say, yes, no, good, bad, just one word. There's so much of time to spend on friends and talk. Go on and on. So, mothers are not others. We are so much of our mother and our father. Next month in Singapore, in October, the 10th, I'm praying for my mother. I've been transferring merits for her 10th death anniversary. We're going to feed 500 people, 25 months. She died 10 years ago for me. It's just like 5-6 years ago. That's the connection we have. In the case of monks, the Buddha said, though you have become a monk, if nobody take care of your parents, you can bring them to your temple, keep them and take care of them Feed them. See that their needs are being met. That is the Buddha's spirit. එතෙන්දි කියන්නේ අම්මා ගෑණියෙක් නිසා වහලයට ඉන්න බෑ. See the Karuna Sasana, the teaching which is embodied by compassion. Compassion is not just a thought. Siru satyo niduk veva sabbe satthanam sukhidatta erika kiyeka. Itane ekak. In action. When compassion is action, it becomes meaningful. When it's in a theory, it becomes meaningless. These are the things we must engineer in ourselves. So that is why today I didn't want to choose the topic that I have wanted to speak, because a larger audience will benefit a lot by that when we meet next time. I've been speaking about the last few days in the Brampton Caledon Temple and in society, and I've lost my voice. And maybe excuse me. But anyway, to fulfill the Bada session of this Vasana and to transfer merits to Uday Navaratna's and Deepika's parents, H.M. Navaratna the father, Vimala Navaratna the mother, we are doing this good ceremony. So, in transference of merits, we don't see a difference at all, isn't it? But we don't transfer more merits to the mother or more merits to the father. It's a very interesting point. You see now, when the man aspect or the male aspect of the Buddha became prominent, the Chinese Buddhists were smart. They made in their temples the goddess of mercy, Avalokiteshvara. You will see in many Chinese temples, Vietnamese temples, when you go, the statue, just like the Buddha, with beautiful hands and figures and stuff. So that the female aspect is also represented. Why do Catholics sometimes pray more to Mother Mary and less to Jesus? You understand? Because they understood the maternal aspect, the aspect of a mother is so important, because mothers are more compassionate. Mothers are more loving than the fathers. But the love of the father is equal, which you can't see. So it is wrong to say, though I did say because people believe like this, that the mother is more loving than the father. So when yesterday's paper I was in downtown Toronto, and somebody passed a paper free of charge. Not all parents are qualified to look after their children. It's a case of disabled parents, and the Canadian government have debarred them to take care of their children because they torture the children. You see? So if we are to tell children, බුදුහාමුදුරු කියලා තියෙන්නේ දෙමව්පියෝ දිවිවරු වගේ විදිහට ප්‍රඥාවකේ සලකන්නේ කිව්වොත් දෙමව්පියෝ ඒ විදිහට වැඩ කරන්නේ නැත්තම් ඒක තේරුමක් නැහැ. Parents must qualify with that quality that they can get the respect of the children and have the authority over children. So in wise parenting, this is very important. The role of a mother, the role of a father, the role of parents as a unit, Mata Pitaro, is very important. Venerable Sariputta, Buddha's chief disciple, he didn't use the father's surname. Sari is his mother's name. Then Sari, andine karante. Me samahar ratol me wage andagena giya why are you wearing a sari? You see, and very interesting because my name Sumana, it fits both male and female. It's a unisex name. A very rare name among male names. Now, the Buddha, his beauty as Prince Siddhartha, because he had a soft body. And you know, not all Nepalese are the same, the Sakyan race. The men are very handsome, the women are very pretty. They are like statues. Not all Nepalese, they are Sakya race. So, one of the reasons that Buddhism flourished and established in many countries, because the Buddha's speeches were more feministic than male. If you look at the Gandhara art, the statues that were broken in Afghanistan, Gandhara art, if you go to Taxila, which is now in Pakistan, it was ex-India, the beauty of the attraction of the Buddha. This Buddha is Japanese face, it's more male. But the feministic aspect of him made a great appeal. The man who taught us the art of living aesthetically became a beautiful piece of art that people were attracted to. This is what the Buddha is. His nature of preaching, his nature of expression, his nature of living. That there shouldn't be prominence in man and a lower position in women. So he fought, he struggled for the rights of women. So in the Jatakas, and also in Moggalana's case, he also used Moggali is his mother's name. Moggali's son. Today you write son of your father, daughter of the father. We are actually more chauvinistic now. Look at the traditional Pali. They didn't use the father's surname, not compulsory. There are Indian women also who write like that. I think you have heard of Neetu Singh, the actress in Bollywood. Yeah? Anybody knows Neetu Singh? Film Balda Amitabh Bachchan. They're supposed to be Kaur, K-A-U-R. Kaur means princess in Punjabi. But instead of that, she kept the father's name. So like that, there are men and women who fight for this kind of struggle and to show that it is not right to be one-sided. You see? Co-equal authority for mother and father should be given. That was the Buddha's way of expression. And in the Jatakas, the Buddha said, a mother, like a man, should be crowned reverentially. That means you must crown not only your father, your mother also with respect. And that is why when he said, the first duties of a husband to the wife is to respect her. The second duty is to honor her. The 5 duties, no? What is respect? Just because you are a man, don't oppress her. Don't look down on her. Don't treat her like a slave. One day I went to the Dhani in Birmingham, in England. It was a professor of medicine, a Hindu, but now became Buddhist, but not very clear about Buddhist practices. So he arranged the table the Indian way. The monks sat down in chairs, 2 of us. And he also joined us to eat, because it's more Indian style. But then he didn't allow the wife to sit down. We were so sad, the woman took the plate and sat on the floor. In a very highly educated author, he was writing books on parenting, imagine. He wrote on microbiology, his subject. But when it came to his culture, he was so low in his thinking. I can never forget that. So this is the problem. Then what did the Buddha say? Respect and honor. That means, like you as a man want to be respected, you must respect your wife also equally. It doesn't mean because you are a man, you are the father, because you are earning what you need for the house, that you can say or do anything you like. So when we come to European thinking and British law, it's very interesting how equality is given by law. I don't know how it's ruled here, but in England, if you are married to a woman and you live in the house, Half of the house belonged to her by law, not by will. Even if you are living together, it's still the same. It's called common law wife. So, the Buddha who understood this, then he said the third duty of a husband is to give jewelry, buy ornaments for your wife. As Prince Siddhartha, he knew women's mind very well. One of the duties, so now demand. If your husband has not given you enough jewelry, don't over demand like the Rajapaksas. Just demand what you should get. This was the Buddha's compassion. He was not talking about Nibbana, Vipassana, Bhavana and all that. No, layman's things. The first things first. This is the beauty of Buddhism. Because it's not just an abstract thing or theory or ritual blindly to believe and follow, but practical things in our human life in a very socially engaged way the Buddha has put. He talks what you need. He talks what you should play. He talks what you should follow as a social policy or philosophy or politics. What is the right way to live? It's very important. So, the Buddha struggled. He struggled, he had argument with many of those who did not treat women equally. Naughty men always say they can do anything. Men are men. The Buddha never accepted that. He said, one of the duties, the fourth duty of the husband is to be faithful to the wife. And one of the duties of the wife is be faithful to your husband. No such thing as men are men. Then, perform your duties, the Buddha said. Hospitality faithfully to your husband and to his colleagues also. In Victorian England, that means old type of British system, there are cases where 13 women were married to one man. The Victorian style was very different. And then we find in the Digha Nikaya, a very funny thing also, a note about Hinduism, where a Brahmin had 40 wives. Is it something like Yamin? How many children did he have? Can anybody answer that? Roughly, at least. I was supposed to go to Yamin's country last month actually. Sorry, in June. Can anybody remember? Do you live in this world? Is Africa out of this world? No, they're all part of this world. He had 32 kids. That's why he was called Big Dada. But he called himself conqueror of the British Empire. And he made the white men carry him. He tortured them in his own country. And how did he die? Couldn't live in his country. Because he was cannibalistic, he ate human flesh. He kept the bones and all that in the fridge. So what happened? He had to run away to Saudi Arabia to see Allah's mercy. He died there on the road one day. You see, power creates a lot of problems. And when you can't maintain that and you want more, you have much more problems. Okay. The king of Kuwait, he had 20 wives. So you can understand why Saddam Hussein wanted to attach Kuwait into his own country. And they ran for their lives. And he had 70 children, the king of Kuwait. They are called Emir, E-M-I-R. That's how you get the word Emirates. Now, a very interesting case. Who is the Buddha's female chief disciples? I'm asking a very simple question from all of you. What are the names of the female disciples? Buddha Agra Sravikav kaun? Khema? Uppalavanna. Uppalavanna was born in a lotus, it says. And then the color of the body was like Kukulmal, like a lily. So she was born, it says, but most probably she was born as a human and somebody put on the flower. You see, it doesn't matter. Now she had a different situation. She was bound to the same man, and she was the mom of that man. Very funny. I can't explain that. That's all the book says. Now, Princess Kanha in the Jataka books, Kanha is a female. She had 5 husbands, the opposite of polygamy. Do you understand what is the English word for that? The opposite of polygamy? බහුභාර්යා සේවනයට විරුද්ධ වචනය මොකක්ද? සිංහලෙන් කියන්න බලන්න. But this is all in our history, you know, to understand this is Buddhist history. In English it's called polyandry. Polyendry. The important things in the world which has happened we have to understand. In the Laws of the Monk, the book which I earlier mentioned, it says like this: the wife should serve the husband as a god. My goodness. Even if he's bad, does she have to treat him like that? In Germany, they're so rough. I have a PR in England, 30 years I'm working in England and Germany. So it's different situations. We have to understand. When we come to countries like this, when you are bringing up children, you can't use that classical old style of explaining. Depending on the condition, this is what the Buddha said, anicca. How we can be flexible to the extent without losing our ethical spirit, ideas, and to make adjustment to explain to the young people. Teenagers are teen not for nothing. So therefore, the Buddha says in the Jataka, if a wife fears the husband, she is not a true wife. Don't fear your husband. See the Buddha's advice. In such a difficult situation like India. And he says, don't have a guilt complex. Because even if you are a prostitute, you can be enlightened. That is Buddhism. Ambapali was a prostitute. She was a famous prostitute. Many people came to her. So the Buddha, if you go to Rajgaha Nuwara and now and see, the mango grove of Ambapali is still there. Prostitution was legal, of course, that time in India. And the Buddha came to preach to her, and that 3 months Vasana stayed in the land she gave to the Buddha. And she became a bhikkhu. And she tells of her liberty. Read the Udana Pali, Theri Gata. They're wonderful. How the women who became liberated by becoming nuns, and how they explain their life system by beautiful examples. So these are the great things that you find in such honorable situations where women were being liberated. In English it is called the Psalms of the Sisters, Theri Gata. How the bhikkhunis, who were once suppressed by their men in Hindu society, became liberal and expressed themselves. Now Khema, you mentioned Khema. Khema was the chief queen of King Bimbisara. Bimbisara was a very powerful king. If you go to Rajagaha and look at the Bimbisara jail, how many of you have been to India? One good Buddhist. Any others? Yeah? Only one? You are real Aryan. That's why you are Arya Guru Sekhar. These others are not Arya. Semi-Arya. If you don't go to India, you will never understand what the Buddha preached. Because he doesn't look like this. He looks like an Indian, though he's Nepalese. He doesn't look like those Sri Lankan Monica statues. It's all red. Yeah, different colors. They will go again. So, when you go to India, you look at the trees, the environment, what the Buddha preached when he used those examples, then you can relate. It's like people who have not come to Canada can't understand what is the real weather in Canada. If you tell Sri Lanka's they don't believe. No? They think whole Canada every year, throughout the year is cold. They don't believe that people in Japan die out of heat. Poor people, there are poor people and not everybody is rich. So summer is very strong. The Buddha, very kindly, very compassionately, he treated this subject to uplift the suppressed and oppressed situation of women. In glowing words of intense joy, how those nuns express their liberty. Read them, you will understand the great impact that the Buddha has made to women's liberation. So recently, now I want to ask you a practical question. Who is the first Buddhist nun in modern history in Sri Lanka? You are all Sri Lankans except for me. මෑත යුගයේ සිංහල කියවක භික්ෂුණියක් පළමුවෙනි අවතාරයට වෙච්ච කාන්තාව ඒ භික්ෂුණියගේ නම මොකක්ද? The son is a doctor staying nearby. I don't know whether he comes here. Any idea? Sri Lankan tradition seems to believe that the bhikkhuni is order no more there. It's not right because that same order which was in Sri Lanka was taken to China and it flourishes until now unbroken. So Sri Lanka in history could give that to the Chinese system because our laws are not so different from theirs if you understand the way. And why don't you bring it back? They're so prejudiced because they are influenced by Brahmins. Many of you live as Buddhists, but you are terribly influenced by Hinduism. I hope you understand this. 99% then you say nothing is Sarvanga. I have only one refuse there. Don't contradict us. We've got to be careful. When we are given a treasure, why do you still want to have iron and you have gold? So these are the important things. And we have to remember that the Blessed One who gave this calm serenity, balanced serenity, the Buddha, that equilibrium in a human being, man or woman, he made sure that Buddhism is not an exclusive gentleman's club, a club for both men and women. With this, I'm going to end my talk. I have spoken for an hour. It's too much for my English. So read more the Angulimala Sutta, more about Kisagotami, and about how Patachara was saved by the Buddha. How Rajumala was about to commit suicide, the Buddha went himself and stopped him. Those are very few examples. Take your time, at least once a week, to sit down and read what you have not read before about Buddhism to improve. Because there's a great movement. I don't know whether you are aware, in this country, there are 350,000 Buddhists. And we Sri Lankan Sinhalese are a very small number. The biggest number are the white people in this country. There are nuns who are running big centers outside Thero, 50, 60, 70, 80 acres, big land, and they are living. Some are very celebrated nuns in the Dalai Lama's students. And also there are 5 traditions in the Tibetan system, and they're very committed. They're very committed. So we are happy. So nobody can give the name of the first bhikkhuni in this century. So it's have you heard of Bhikkhuni Kusuma? No, also? She's written books. She's spoken at Rogers in Toronto. So you see, you lack a lot of information. I find in this organization in Rotterdam, you have faith, but there is no. You have a desire because you have a good monk who can preach to you, but that is not enough. When it comes to action, you are still backward. Very slow. So, from the organizational point of view, don't leave it only to the men. Women who are strong, come forward and do your duty to yourself, to your family, to your religions. What men cannot do, if you go to Taiwan, you'll be surprised what the women can do. You know, the biggest and the award-winning relief organization in the world is a Buddhist organization run by a nun. Taiwanese Buddhist nun. You may Google and see. T-Z-U, Su, Chi, C-H-I. You can't believe. All these books you get coming free, printed in English language also. In many languages, not just English and Chinese. It's all done by her. Hospitals. Anytime, anywhere in the world, if there is a disaster, their group go before the government of their country can go. Power of women. Demonstrate that. This is well seen by the bhikkhunis of those countries. So therefore, today, if you come to the end of this session, Shraddha Bhikkhuni, Udaya Navaratna Mahatmya, Ema Mahatmya, Veda, Navaratna Pavale, Miyagi Piyate, H.M. Navaratna Mahatmya, Tevagin Vimala Navaratna Pavate, Peak MDBB was Bhagat Dharma Desaya. මේ අවස්ථාවේදී අපි කාන්තා විමුක්තිය පිළිබඳ බුදුරජාණන් වහන්සේගේ අදහස් ගැන දැක්වුවා. මේ පින්වතුන්ගේ බුද්ධි වර්ධනයට ප්‍රඥාව දියුණු වීමට ඒ වගේම ලෝකීය යුක්තිය පිළිබඳ බුදුරජාණන් වහන්සේගේ දෘෂ්ටිය තේරුම් ගන්නට මේ ධර්ම දේශනාව ඉවහල් වේවා කියලා මම ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා. විරදා අපිට තිබිච්ච ස්ත්‍රී පිළිබඳ දුර්මත දුරු වෙන්නට ඕන. බුදුදහම ලෝකේ ස්ථාවර වෙන්න ගැහැණු පිරිමි වේදයකින් තොරව බුදුරජාණන් වහන්සේගේ ධර්මයේ කාට සමාන විදියට යොමු කියනවා කියන එක අපි විතර මඟ තබා ගන්න වැඩ කටයුතු කරන්නට ඕනේ. ඒ සමිසාගම් වලේ වැඩ කරනකොට ඒ විදියට ඉන්නට ඕනේ. ඒ නිසානේ අපි පන්නේ සරණඳුරුමේ පන්සල පටන් ගත්තාම කොයි පන්සලක නැති විදියට ඉස්ලාම් ධර්මයේ Mrs. Ajanta, president of Buddhist temple. I did the same in Italy. I put a woman as the president of the temple. So it doesn't mean always it must be a man, only then you can run. So in practice we must do it also. Not just think and then believe Buddhism says so, let us be happy. Not enough. Action is important. Therefore, today Mr. and Mrs. Navaratna have created this space or time for all of you to come and deliberate. And I wish all of you will follow and learn more about this theme of the Buddha being the father of human liberation. In නිසා දැන් අපි පින් අනුමෝදන් කරමු. එන්නේ පරිලෝකීය උදේ නවරත්න මහත්මයාගේ මවටයි පියාටයි. ඒ වගේම අනිත් සිසු දායක පිරිස තම තමන්ගේ ජාතීන් මතක් කරගෙන මේ වස්සාන කාලේ බොහොම පින්දහම් කරන ගල් පිරිස ඉවිල්ලා ඉන්නේ. ඒ අය මතක් කරගෙන ඉදම් මේ ඥාතිනම් වගේම දෙවියන්ට පින් අනුමෝදන් කරන්න devas are important because they take care of the environment also. Now the Olympics is in Rio, Brazil. The environment is so bad there. So therefore, let us pray for them and also for Canada and for the whole world, where the devas accept these merits and become more meritful and bring in more harmony to our environment and to our human beings and to our sasana. Akasata. Dhammasana chanting part of Utumu Amamani Vansapadiva. Abhivadana Siris Nityam Vata Pachaino Chattaro Dhamma Vatanti Ayuvanno Sukham Balam Ayurarugya Sampatti Sagga Sampatti Mevacha Atho Nibbana Sampatti Iminate Samijatu. I think we should make use about 10 minutes to, if you have any question to ask. Yeah. Feel free to ask. You can use 10 minutes. සංකේතවත් තමයි එහෙම කළේ. එකපාරට පිළිගත්තා නම් අර බ්‍රාහ්මණයෝ කොහොම විරුද්ධ වෙනවා. එහෙනම් බුද්ධාගම පිටවන්න හම් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ගෙනියන්නත් බැහැ. භාග්‍යවලට කාලයක් ගියාම බුද්ධාගම ඉන්දියාවට ඇති වෙච්ච ප්‍රධාන හේතුව ඒකත් වෙන්නේ ඇති. ඒ නිසා දැන් බුදුරජාණන් වහන්සේ අෂ්ටකම් ධර්ම කොන්දේසි 8ක් කියලා ඒකෙදි අටුවා පොත්වල ලියලා තියෙනවා කියලා වැරදි මතයක්. මේ ගෑනුන් මහාන කරපු නිසා බුද්ධ ආගම අඩු වුණා කියලා. කාලසීමාව 1000ක් තියෙන ලෝකෙක 500 දැස්සා කියලා. ඉතින් වගේ දුර්මත ගොඩක් ඇති වෙනවා. Brahmanic faith against. So the Buddha was what you call open-minded to look at the culture he was living. Like you are here in Canada, you cannot just do as you like in Sri Lanka. It's like that. Understand? Yeah. So this is not compromise, but understanding and then having more what you call accommodation. That's the English word. To accommodate what you want in that system. So you have to do something. I think it was very prudent of the Buddha. Buddha government Nipunai, Hari Daksai, Avi Itani American. Unwanse, Buddha, Nitya, Loke, Tatwe, Subhadharmi, Ritya, you don't Salakana Manatama, Karano Naspadi. The Buddha Api, Handru, Nitri, Manage the sake of Patapatangan. Out to Isangam was a good will I mean. ඒ ප්‍රශ්නයක් ආවම විතරයි මේ නීතියක් දැක්කේ. ආයේ නීතිය වෙනස් කරනවා. ආයෙත් ඒක මොඩිෆයි කරනවා. අනුප්‍රත්‍යක්තියක් දානවා. Amendments. There's one law for the Buddhist monk which he amended 7 times. If he is all knowing, why should he do that? Because සැරෙම කියලා දාන්න පුළුවන් නේද? එහෙම නෑ උඹ. දැන් මිනිස්සුන්ට පිටුල ඉවරයි. ඒ කියන්නේ මම කියන්නේ ලංකාවේ අය. ලංකාව ගැන දන්නේ නැහැ. I'm very sad. I'm not Sri Lankan, but I know more facts about Sri Lanka than many of you. ලංකාවේ මිනිස්සුන්ට පිටුල ඉවරයි. හඳුන නමයි යෝනේ. ඊට වඩා ගොඩක් එකතු වුණා. බුද්ධගයා පිහිටේ. සාරනාථ එකේ පිහිටේ. එමන් එකනේ කිව්වේ අනුරාධපුර යෝගියේ දෙවරසන් බික්කුණිය මහාන කරන චීනයට එවුවා. ඇයි ඒ මහානකම ආපහු ගෙන්නේ නැති චරකල්? ඒ බ්‍රාහ්මණික ඉන්ෆ්ලුවන්ස් එක නිසා ප්‍රෙජුඩිස් එක නිසා. බමුණෝ කොච්චර අපේ මිනිස්සුන්ගේ ඔළුවට ගිහින් තියෙනවා. ඒකනේ. සම්බන්ධයත් තේමනේ බ්‍රාහ්මණ අදහස් මොකක්ද කියනවා දැන් කෝවිල් වලට යන්නේ මේකයි කතරගම යන්නේ මේකයි විනෝදයට යනවා කට්ටිය අර යටිදී මේ දේව විශ්වාසයයි ඒ වලට ඉතින් මේ අපි දුවරියගේ ඉවරයි පස්සේ වලට තියෙනවා අපේ ශාසනයට එක්ක සම්බන්ධ බ්‍රාහ්මණ මත තියනවද? තියෙනවා. සමහර තැන් ඉන්ටර්ප්‍රිටේෂන් එයාට ඕන විදිහට කියලා දෙන්න පුළුවන්. බ්‍රාහ්මණය වශයෙන් හිටියේ මම වෙනවා. සෙකුලර් ඉන්ෆ්ලුවන්ස් එක එනවා ඒකට. ඒ වගේ අපි පරිස්සම් වෙනවා. ඒ සමහර විට දැන් ඔය වික්ෂණීන්ට ඔය පොන්දේසියට දාපු එක බ්‍රාහ්මණයන්ගේ වැඩක් වෙනවා. ඒක බුදුහාමුදුරුවෝ කිව්වා කියලා හැමෝම පිළිගන්නේ. බකේ පිළිගන්නවා. පොන්දේසි දැම්මා කියලා. Now, liberal Buddhist thinkers, they think that it is the Brahmanic agenda has crept into that. ඔන්න බලන්න ඒකේ උදාහරණයක් කරගමු. එක කොන්දේසියක් තමයි එදා මහාන වෙච්ච පොඩි හාමුදුරන්ට වඩා අර අවුරුදු 20 මහාන වෙලා ඉන්න වික්කුණියට වඩා අර පොඩි හාමුදුරේ එදා මහාන වෙච්ච කෙනා උතුම් කියලා. ඒක වෙන්න බෑ කියලා. ඒතර වික්කුණිය රාත් වෙලා ඉන්නවනම් යත් ඒ වඳින්න ඕනේ කියලා තියෙනවා. මහාන වෙච්ච පිරිමියෙක්. ඉතින් මුදාගෙන නිකන් කියවලා මේ බණහන අඳුරු ලොකු අඳුරු කියව ඒව එහෙම පිළිගන්නේ නැහැ. අඳුරු කියලා තියෙන්නේ විමසන්න කියලා. So we need to be serious in our understanding, to be precise in our understanding, not to be dogmatic or influenced by extreme views. Because if we become so, we'll be like Muslims. I'm glad you raised that issue. Any other question? Okay, then we come to an end. Yeah. By making all these spiritual deeds, all of you, and by engaging yourself to ask questions with Dhammasakata, which is the highest blessing, one of the 38 blessings, you have acquired a lot of merits. May all of you be well and happy here and now. Hereafter in your next life, and finally achieve the bliss of Nirvana. Say Sadhu. Excuse me, also one announcement I must make. Tomorrow I am giving a talk in Caledon, Bihar. The topic is very good for those who meditate. Are there arahants today? Controversial topic.
Sadhu බොහොමත්ම සද්ධාවෙන් ගෞරවයෙන් විහාරස්ථානයේ ඉඳලා ඒ වස්සාන කාලයේ පවත්වනු ලබන ධර්ම දේශනාවට දුන්නා. ඒ වගේම බුද්ධ වන්දනාවේ සිද්ධ කරලා ඒ වතාවත් හැමදෙනාම සිද්ධ කළා. ඒකට ඒ වතාවත් සිද්ධ කිරීමෙන් සහ බුද්ධ මේ ධර්ම දේශනාවට එමුකන් දීමෙන් උපදවා ගන්න යෙදුනා වූ සියලුම කුසල ශක්තිය පින් සිදුවිදී වල බලයෙන් ශක්තියෙන් අපි ප්‍රාර්ථනාවක් කරමු ආශිර්වාදයක් කරමු ඔබ අපි හැම දිනකටම මේ ධර්ම දේශනාව සිද්ධ කොට වදාළ ඒ ආචාර්ය සිංගප්පූරුවේ සුමනසිරි පඬිතුමාණන් වහන්සේට මේ ශාසන අබරෙහි තව තවත් කටයුතු යහතින් සිද්ධ කරන්ට නිදුක් නිරෝගී සුවය වේවා චිරජීවනයේ වේවා කියන අදහස ඇති කරගෙන උන්වහන්සේ ප්‍රාර්ථනීය බෝධියකින් උතුම් වූ නිර්වාණ අවබෝධයෙන් සාක්ෂාත් කරත්වා කියන අදහසින් සාදු කියලා ආශිර්වාද සාදු සාදු